for the country. I'll tell you why. In the next 15 years, give or take, 2 election cycles. Now I am in a stage where I look at country in election cycles now. Give or take 3 election cycles, I see a change. And second, to understand the future of this country, we will talk about the past for about 5 minutes. It's very important because past is always a grounding through which you jump into the future. Now, there is a city called Hampi in Karnataka, which is not very far from here, maybe about 400 kilometers, correct? So 370 years back, Hampi was the second wealthiest city in the world. In the current PPP terms, Hampi is worth about $2.1 trillion. Second richest when the Vijayanagar kings were at its peak. So the story is that even when you have to play a game, normally you play a game with pearls, you play a game with gold coins, you play a game with diamond balls. That's the way it was wealthy. Now, 370 years later, when you go to Hampi now, Hampi is nothing. I see rock, I see some temples for which we all take pride. 370 years, somebody has built it, and we still claim that the heritage is still standing. So 370 years, I'm seeing a shift from one end to other end. And again, if I go 250 years back, when Angus Madison, the Oxford economist, when he wrote a paper, he said 57% of the world economy was controlled by 2 countries, China and India. Now I'm looking at a scenario in 2020 where India controls about 2% of the world's economy. US is about $20 trillion, China is about 13 trillion, India is about 2.7 trillion. So we are about 6th now, probably after Germany, France, and Japan. So we are seeing a shift, a 270-year shift from one point you have come to the other point. First we'll try and find why did it happen. A lot of people have written brilliant books. There is a great book called Why Nations Fail, very widely quoted book in the international markets and the international forums. People talk about democracy, people talk about infrastructure, people talk about social spending, people talk about social capital, people talk about common transfer of knowledge. So that is one part. But if you look at the arc, what happened in 270 years, is there any lessons to be learned so that the next 100 years or the next 25 years specifically, we get into a different India in which you all should rightfully play a part. Now one thing is, India was great 250 years back when no specialization was required. We still had that same quality of population, indigo cultivation was there, the largest producer of indigo in the world. Indigo itself was about 15% of the world's market because the dye was very important. All was happening through cottage and hand weaving and everything. Just when the industrial revolution happened, probably we just couldn't get into it. The Renaissance and the so-called industrial revolution, we were not a party to it. We are kept outside it deliberately because a particular company, a private-owned enterprise wanted to benefit. So we lost the trajectory. The other guys benefited from it. That's simple. Because we were not allowed to be part of that industrial revolution. We were only made to supply for the industrial revolution. And normally when you supply a raw material, it is only 1 rupee. When the raw material gets converted and come to the market, it's 5 rupee. So somebody enjoyed the 4 rupee profit, and we were still getting that 1 rupee. It's simple mathematics. Now come 1947. So where were we? The per capita income was very poor. The average life expectancy rate was just about 37. And 13% of the Indian population was literate. So when you look at this 70-year arc, we have done quite well. It is not that we have done bad. The per capita income has really gone up now. Maybe Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, you can compare it to an European country. There are some countries in the Europe where Karnataka's per capita income, you can match it. But of course, we have some states in India which pulls the overall per capita income in India. So we go by the overall numbers. And again, if you look at the life expectancy, we have jumped to 71 now. It's the only country where the women folks and the men folk, everybody is doing much better. Maybe if you look 70 years back, it's a big country with a lot of dialects, a lot of language, and a lot of cultural difference. You have northeast, you have south, you have north, you have west. We have done quite okay. It is not that we have done bad, nothing to feel bad about it. Now we have learned some lesson. What worked, what is that arc of 270 years and what is that arc of 70 years. Now I am more interested in talking about the future for the next 25 years. Now one thing we have to understand is, there's a very famous quote by the UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali. The first guy, he said, any place where there's a poverty is a threat to prosperity anywhere. He said poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity everywhere. That's a very important statement he made 60 years back. Now India could have gone a lot of countries' way. Maybe 1990, post-liberalization, we could have continued to liberalize, open up. Very efficient bureaucrats like Manivan and sir would have delivered the goods. and we would have gone crazy, no doubt about that. But the only problem is the base effect of India was so poor, only the top 2% were enjoying something and the rest 98% were not doing good. If you look at the long-term trajectory of the next 100 years, probably the 98% guys would pull down the rest 2%, either not now, 20 years from now. They'll definitely do it. The classic example is the Russian Revolution. The classic example is Hitler's Germany. If you look at the Prussia, all the great countries, everywhere a country was doing well, a revolution happened because the so-called have-nots did not have bread. When you complained to the queen said, if you don't have a bread, eat a cake. Because they'll pull you down. India could have gone any number of countries. Like China, we could have breaklessly, we could have just opened anything. But the point is, the last 20 years, we are consciously doing a course correction. Probably we are seeing a pain now, because the overall trajectory is much better. Because one limb, it starts getting bad. Maybe the heart is good now, but what the limb will do is, 20 years from now, the whole body will go bad. You look at the simple base numbers. I'm just taking the last 10 years data. 17 crore people, first time they had seen LPG in their life, out of the 130 crore. But if 17 crore, you don't give an LPG, the CIA and the ASCOMs and whatever, the big guys sitting at the table, probably your children, by the time they come and run your companies, you will not have a single labor to run your company. So that chain has to be taken. The problem is India is one of the very unique countries where 7% of people pay the income tax. So if you look at US, it's 33%. If you look at Norway, it's 100%. If you look at some countries where they don't pay income tax, like Saudi or Kuwait or something, because you have an oil, you can do it. But India is one country in the top 8 table. If you look at the top 8 countries in terms of per capita incomes, India is the only country where less than 10% of people in income tax. Comparatively for France, it's 41% people pay income tax. So maybe you might believe unfairly that a lot of burden is put on you, because like an oxen, you're carrying so much weight. It's unfair on you that you are carrying so much. You are carrying this extra weight because unless you don't pull these guys inside, 20 years from now, you will have trouble. No doubt about that. Country will go separate ways. The Naxalism, which was rearing its head, when I joined police, Naxal was a big issue. During my IPS interview, 7 out of my 10 questions were about internal security, were about Naxalism, were about Bodos, were about Mizos, were about all those things. Now an IPS guy doesn't have this kind of questions about it, because internal security were clear, no Naxalism. 10 years, whatever Naxal spread was there, we brought it down to less than 5% now. We have almost finished off the Northeast issues. Maybe 2 more issues to be sorted in Mizoram and Manipur. Before the next 2024 elections, Northeast will be absolutely peaceful. You guys can go there and do a business and buy anything you want. Kashmir is getting open now. So internal security is getting fixed. It is not that nothing is happening. So a government sitting at Delhi or probably sitting in Bangalore or sitting in Chennai, it takes a view that is 20 years from now, it takes a view that is 25 years from now. But the problem is, who sits in the government? When I started my talk, I mentioned about 2 things. Responsible people have to sit in the responsible position, number 1. And the person who sits in the chair has to deliver, number 2. Both has to do it. It's non-negotiable. But the problem in Indian democracy, the first past the post system again is, unlike in Israel, which is a representative proportional democracy, India is FTP, meaning a mass leader has got a more chance to win an election than a technocrat like you, and Nandan Nilekani can come all the way to Bangalore South. Bangalore South has got 98% literacy, but still Nandan Nilekani cannot win. That is something which we have to understand. The simple point is, Bangalore South only 49% people vote. And among the 49% people who vote are the so-called have-nots. And the so-called have-nots have to connect with Mr. Nilekani to elect him. So the problem is, in this first past the post system, where anybody who gets that 41% of the popular vote becomes an MP and MLA. This is changing now. It has to change. Why it has to change? Because when technocrats, people who are educated like you, people with good intention, go sit in the parliament, then the laws get formed. Once the law gets formed, then probably some MP will say, why to start a company in India, somebody has to get 17 different licenses. Why for a GST form, I have to do it quarterly, I have to do it half-yearly, I have to do it early. Why are you doing it? The whole idea of GST is to make our life simpler. But we have overcomplicated it by filling forms after forms, and we are talking of GST compiling itself is a big problem, because technocrats are not sitting there. People are not understanding what is happening. I'm not blaming any government now. Now, a political revolution will happen when our stomach is full, when I have enough bank balance in my account to take that political leap, when probably people, some of you in this room might feel, I will contest a popular election because I'm taken care of now. That is always, a political revolution will always follow an economic revolution. Across the world history, it is always like that. Political revolution can never happen and followed by economic revolution. Economic revolution has happened. It is happening. It has to happen. So when next 25 years, why I keep a lot of hope is, I'm seeing a lot of changes is going to happen in the Indian polity. It will happen whether you like it or not. When the political guy comes and sits there, probably is more aligned to you. He doesn't want your money only to win elections. Before elections, I will not call every one of you and say, hey, look, you have taken a favor from me in Delhi, you have taken a favor from me in Bangalore. Can you fund my election, 5 crore? And all of you have to buy the electoral bond, and all of you have to go different place, and you have to form a trust, and you have to say, I'll give X to Congress, I'll give Y to BJP. That is because it's a popular election. I need money to fight an election and win. Because the so-called have-nots, the election has to be fought in a different way. It is not that any politician who joins a political party goes with that mindset, okay, let me make money, let me make money. Everybody starts with the honest intention. The problem is once you get into the system, it's a problem. So I believe the 2024 election is going to be a game changer. Because why it is going to be a game changer? For 2 reasons. One, the current government is going for its 3rd continuous term, meaning I have to give you a better candidate. You'll not vote for simple reason. Because I have to beat 2 anti-incumbency. And the other guys who are not in the game has to up their game because I have to give you a better candidate. No more, his father was a great guy, son is a great guy, grandson is a great guy. The grandson's baby is already being produced in the universe. He'll get delivered 50 years from now. That great-great-grandson will be a great guy. So 2024 is going to be quality candidates in the field. So that is when the elections will change. You will probably see, you will connect with somebody, okay, this guy is educated, probably this guy has delivered something. So that is why when this guy sit in the parliament, I remember when I was in Germany last year, I went to a company which has got 14 employees. That company's turnover valuation is $1 billion because he produces the technology for your iPhone screen. Sitting in Munich in the southern part of Germany, it's a 14-member company. Purely specialization, purely they do one job, they do it so well. If you go to many Chinese companies, because China controls 98% of rare earth elements. All your cell phones, I need that rare earth elements. All the radar system needs it. All the F-16 needs it. Because China has got a critical component which it controls. So the next way of thinking, maybe from the top and maybe from the bottom is, we have to get into specialization. We got to start adapting. No more cost arbitrage I started a software company and there is a software company in US. My wage labor is much lesser and we made money. That is how this wave of economic reforms have happened, correct? With very little product innovation, very little market innovation, very little market dynamics, very little has happened. The next wave to understand whether Indian companies can get into the big league, can we be the unicorns and can be something, the political support has to happen. I saw in the A6 highway between Munich and Berlin, which is 660 kilometers, I saw in 2 years back Google testing its autonomous car. Google was doing the testing. There was a lane and no drivers inside Google car are going at 160 kilometers per hour. They were doing the testing. And the German parliament proactively got a law for autonomous cars. Because the politicians lead, they make you a framework, then you guys follow. Guys have a clarity. It is not when Niti Aayog tells you 2021 electric vehicles have to come, then the government backs down stating maybe 2024, maybe 2027. How will you guys invest money? How will you guys? You need certainty in the political environment. Whether should I put money, should I not put money? The certainty is not happening for a fact because the guys who help me to win elections are not you. The guys who actually help me to win elections are the guys without an LPG cylinder, are the guys without anything, without a bank account. Those are the guys. So I've taken care of them now. I'm just talking like how a politician thinks. So don't feel bad that last 1 year, 2 years is very bad for you, that so much pinch and demonetization happened and demonetization, simple fact. Why? As a policeman, I'll tell you. When the RBI said, last 5 minutes before I close it, when the RBI said, now many business friends, many of the startups, I consult for a couple of startups in Bangalore for their top leaders. And many people say that demonetization is bad. After demonetization has happened, my business has gone down. The only data I have is, okay, the demonetization happened, the RBI put a white paper, it said, 85% of the money is going to come back, correct? 87%. RBI said that 87% of money is going to come back. Now if you ask RBI, what is the money that has come in? Can anybody tell me the number? Okay. They say the unofficial figure is 112%. Now RBI is not giving the data anymore. The parliament committees are summoning the RBI guys, but somehow we are evading saying this, that is that. It's very funny. How can an economy which claims to have 100% notes in circulation has got 112% notes back? But the RBI white paper clearly says 13% money is supposed to be the black money. Meaning 13 plus 12, I got 25% money back into the system. Why? Why is it? Why did we get 25% money back which we are not supposed to get? No idea. Okay. Now why did we get? That is not black money. That is fake Indian currency notes. It is all original Indian notes printed by China, printed by Pakistan, which was floating in the Indian market. Because you go buy the note paper in Malaysia, China buys the note paper in Malaysia. You go buy the ink in Belgium, China goes buy the ink in Belgium. You go buy the needle in France, China goes buy the needle in France. So it is not that Pakistan as a policy, as a strategic tool, we are printing your own Indian currency, sending it back to India. There is a book recently released by a person released by Subramania Swamy. The book title is Who Painted My White Money Black? You have to understand, some things are taken for strategic reasons. It is not that everything is taken to benefit anybody. There is a bubble that is getting built up. Before 2008, if you look at the numbers of the American economic collapse, the bubble started from 2004. If you look at Raghuram Rajan's paper or the Talab's paper, if you read all those papers, the bubble was building up. India, the asset bubble has already started building up. Correct? So it was gone. So a lot of decisions are not taken to benefit a business, or not taken. Some things are strategic decisions. It has to be done. It cannot wait. It cannot wait. A politician never waits. Because if you don't do that, if you miss it, you're gone. So we will not see any single decision with respect to whether it benefits. It will benefit you 10 years from now. Instead of becoming a civil war and none of us are not able to do a business, something is happening. So we have to give the due where it is due. So like I started, I have a lot of great faith in this nation for two reasons. One, the quality of people like you. Extremely great quality, guys. The quality of thinking you have, the quality of vision you have, other countries might not have. That is number one. And second, now the time for political revolution has started. Maybe 1991 we started economic revolution. We are seeing the benefits in the last 20 years. 39 crore people who might go to bed without a meal are going to bed with 3 meals a day. That is the greatness we have done from 1991. We cannot say government hasn't done anything. Congress government has done it. Different governments have done it. BJP government has done it. It's a great. Maybe if we come to the same room in Taj 20 years from now, 2040 when we say, you will say, look at the quality of our political leaders. They are supporting us so much. So there are 3 pillars have to be there. So already 3 pillars are sitting here. There has to be a businessman, and there has to be a bureaucrat, and there is a politician sitting somewhere out. So it's a 3 triangle. When it connects properly, like an equilateral triangle. So each one will balance the other like China. It balances so beautifully. There is a system, an internal system where bureaucrat keeps coming, he gets into the Politburo, there is a standing committee, keeps delivering. We will not talk about democracy or that's immaterial for the discussion now. And there is a beautiful bureaucratic system. China grooms them, brings them up. There is a beautiful entrepreneurship culture where the state supports you by giving you soft loans and all those stuff. So India will get into a system in the Indian way that we have to understand. We will not do the Chinese way, we will not do the American way, we will not do the Russian way. We will do it the Indian way. And we somehow believe the Indian way might be stable in the next 25 years. So since the last 7-8 months after my papers, I'm having the extreme great privilege and honor to meet a lot of great guys inside the government, people, fantastic politicians in Delhi, in Chennai, in Bangalore, extremely well-meaning politicians. I've seen same things in a different perspective being a bureaucrat. Now probably they allow me to come into their room and we have that open conversation. I'm seeing the same things in a much different perspective. So it will happen. So first we will take all those guys up. So those are the guys who are having a lot of trouble. We'll give them LPGs, we'll give them bank accounts, we'll make them stable. Let them not go to bed hungry. We'll take care of them because they will take care of you. Those guys are waiting. They will take care of them. They need jobs. The initial leg up government can give. So don't feel bad. It's great it is happening. So maybe we'll celebrate the greatness that we had 370 years back. We'll reach there. It is not that we don't reach. If you look at the numbers, we are $2.7 trillion. The person who's above us is 2.83 trillion. Japan is about 4 trillion. That's it, 3 more countries. We'll just overtake them in a matter of 2 years. We are there. Then we have a couple of people to catch up. But the problem is we will do the next 5, we will do the next 10 trillion, provided when it seeps down. The next 2 trillion we can do easily, not a big deal. But we have to do the next 8 trillion to reach $10 trillion. This 20% guys, the last 30% guys have to be in the queue. You cannot leave them and go and reach the 10 trillion. It's unfair, it's insane, it is unethical. So I'm sure it will happen. So continue to support good politicians whenever you find them, fund them, give them the support. Let technocrats go in. Maybe one of you can be a guy, but problem is you don't have a mass leader. Intentions cannot translate into votes. You got to sweat in the field, stand in the sun, go sit with the poor guy when he's suffering. So the Twitter will not work in a field. Facebook will not work in a field. Mics will not work in a field. You got to carry a dead body in your shoulder. Your degree doesn't count. You got to stand with those guys. When you stand with them, they'll vote for you. But the problem is the technocrats don't do that. And the mass leaders don't do the technocrats' work. Somebody has to marry both. So it will happen. So with this, I offer my best wishes and regards to the whole CII family. I think Madam is taking over now. Let Madam have a very fruitful tenure. Madam also comes from our, she also comes from our home state. Not because I'm parochial here. We are Kannadigas in Kannadiga. We are Indians in Delhi. We are Tamilians in Chennai. I always believe in this. The land, the soil, which has given us respect, we have to give that respect back. So all of us were proud Kannadigas. Some of you are proud Kannadigas. Let it continue to be that way. Let us give back something to the city, something to the state, which has given us food and water. Let all good things happen, starting from this room. And see you 20 years from now. Thank you so much.